Hello everyone, this is Tim with Online Big Blue bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. It's time once again for another Versus episode. And we are doing what I like to call now the Battle of the Monsters, the tight end position. We are taking two of the greatest tight ends in Giants history, arguably the two best tight ends in Giant history, Mark Bavaro and Jeremy Shockey, and comparing them against each other, and we will be now deciding, in just my opinion, who was the greatest tight end in New York Giant history. Now, the Giants have had, I wouldn't say a plethora of wonderful tight ends. We've had some good tight ends. Have we had awesome tight ends? We've had some good players. We've had like Kevin Boss, who had four good seasons with the team. He had 119 catches, 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns. Was a contributor to the Super Bowl team. He filled in, for an injured Jeremy Shockey in the 2007 playoff run. He became a starter in 2008. So, like I said, his tenure was cut short by the Giants when he went over to the Oakland Raiders because the Giants never offered him a contract, but he was a good player. Then we also have someone like Howard Cross. While Howard Cross was never going to blow you away with his stats, it was his consistency and longevity being a 6th-round draft choice out of Alabama. He did play 13 seasons, 201 catches, 2,194 yards, and 17 touchdowns. He was, like I said, he was mainly a blocker, but you played that many, you play in that many games. He was valuable. He had one big season where he grabbed 5 touchdowns, but like I said, he could catch the ball, but his value has always been into the running game. And then we had players like Bob Tucker. Most people don't remember Bob Tucker because Bob Tucker was stuck in the doldrums of the 70s. Tucker was an interesting guy. He actually played for the Pottstown Firebirds. If you've ever seen the episode on NFL Films, I highly recommend it. That was a semi-pro team before he went in and played for the Giants. I mean, he was the kind of guy that, like I said, he was 25 years old when he came into, to play for the Giants. He had some good seasons, but like I said, no one really remembers him because he was stuck in the 70s. And he's one of the few players on the Giants that played in all 4 stadiums at the time. He played at Yankee Stadium, the Yale Bowl, Shea Stadium, and Giant Stadium. So, I mean, he finally got a little bit to do when he went over to Minnesota. He kind of finally got to taste the playoffs. Another player, tight end wise, that most of us don't remember, is going to be Aaron Thomas. Aaron Thomas was a sturdy tight end from the 60s. He's kind of a forgotten guy. He was drafted by the 49ers in the 4th round in 61. He played in the era where the passing game was still kind of evolving, but he still played 9 seasons for the Giants, caught 247 catches for 4,253 yards and 35 touchdowns. So, you know what? He's another guy that most people don't even remember. But the two big players that we are talking about today are going to be Mark Bavaro and Jeremy Shockey. We're going to do a comparison of the tape. You got Mark Bavaro, the 4th-round draft choice out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 245 pounds, Mr. Rambo, force of freedom, going up against Jeremy Shockey, 6'5", 251 pounds, out of the University of Miami, number 14 pick in the 1st round. Two similar players, but two different players. Bavaro, when he came into the league, he was, I would say, almost an immediate impact on the 95 team. He was not only a blocker, he was a driving force. That first year, he had 37 receptions for 511 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was a favorite target of Phil Simms. He progressed on with the Giants and had 2, not just Pro Bowl seasons, but all pro seasons in 1986 and 1997. 86 will probably be his best season with 66 receptions for 1,001 yard, but he had a yards per catch 15.2 yards, which is unheard of for a tight end. He had the size, he had the strength, he had the speed. He was nasty, but Bavaro was nasty in a good way. He was not afraid to hit you after the catch. He was not afraid to bowl you over in the running game. And he still had the ability to slide out and had the speed to make plays and just move when the Giants needed him to move. He was an integral part in the 86 team. Won the Super Bowl. He was also not as much as an integral part in the 90 Super Bowl run. He was facing a lot of injuries. If anyone remembers the 90 season like I do, he didn't even practice. He played in 15 games, was not the same wide receiver, and not the same receiver that he was from the tight end position, with only 33 receptions, 393 yards, with 11.9 yards of reception for 5 touchdowns, but he still helped the Giants win 2 Super Bowls in his career. He did miss the entire 91 season, and a lot of doctors told him he should retire, but he went on to play 3 more seasons with Cleveland and 2 in Philadelphia. And I find it funny that his 2 seasons between 92 and 93, he started all 16 games. Was not the same impact player and receiver, but we're only looking at him for the Giants. If you had to pick a player that was on the 86 team that meant as much as any player could have meant to the team, it was Mark Bavaro. He didn't say much, but he was the heart and soul of that team in some regards. And his relationship with Phil McConkey, of course, was legendary. But, like I said, he is just a guy that they always say, and I always hate using military terms, that you want to have in the trenches with you. You want to be there. He was so integral part of the New York Giants that he is a member of the New York Giants Ring of Honor. If we take a look just at his receiving stats with the Giants, we'd be looking at 82 games, 80 games started, 266 receptions, 3,722 yards, 14 yards a catch for 28 touchdowns. And that's not bad for a 6-year career when you add in 2 Super Bowls and 2, not Pro Bowl seasons only, but all pro seasons. You would think that, you would look at that, and if you follow in history of the Giants, you'd be like, that's the guy. That's the guy that's going to be the all-time great, or the greatest all-time Giants tight end. But then you got to think about Jeremy Shockey. Yes, Jeremy Shockey in some regards is an ass. Plain and simple. He came into the league as an interesting guy. He was ultra competitive, and then he kind of morphed into almost like a cartoon character. But the 5 years he was with the Giants, you got to remember, 4 Pro Bowls. He was an All-Pro in 2002, his rookie season. NFL Pepsi Rookie of the Year. I mean, he was the NFL Alumni Tight End of the Year in 2005. Not to mention the fact that he did have a championship ring from Miami, but when the Giants took him in the first round, the 14th pick overall, you knew you had something special with Shockey. I mean, you just knew it. I mean, he was the kind of guy that had the speed. Again, kind of like Bavaro, he could play the position almost like a wide receiver, but he had no problem running your butt over once he got into the secondary, once he got rolling. I will admit it, I have a Jeremy Shockey jersey that I still like to wear from time to time. But if you take a look at his rookie season, 74 catches, 894 yards, 12 yards a catch with 2 touchdowns. He was the kind of guy that, like I said, if you needed a big catch and you needed him to be in the right spot at the right time, Shockey was money. And then if you also just take a, kind of look through his career, he had, like I said, he did have a little bit, I'm not going to say he had an injury bug with the Giants, but you know what? He played hurt. Except for when he got hurt in the 2007 season, in Week 14, when he missed the entire playoffs in the Super Bowl. He was a durable player. Yeah, he would miss a game here and there, but if you look through his games, 15, 14, he was the kind of guy that, like I say, until he became kind of a nut, was dependable. And he was not just dependable as a pass catcher. He was dependable as a blocker. And you take a look at some of his seasons, one of his other seasons that you'd look at, he was 4 Pro Bowls, but he averaged like 66 receptions and over almost 650 yards a season. He had seasons also where we had 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. So he was a guy that could find the end zone. He was a favorite target of Eli Manning after Eli came in the 2004 season. They built up a simpatico relationship that made them special together. Not only was he also an All-Pro, but he's got 4 Pro Bowls to his credit. And like I said, if you wanted a guy that you needed to get a big play at the right time down the middle of the field, there was few people that were better for the New York Giants in the early mid-2000s than Jeremy Shockey. But the big question is, comparing these 2 monsters together, who would be the all-time greatest Giants tight end? I was pondering this question because each of them have certain enable abilities. Bavaro was the man in regards to being the ultimate and consummate team player. Problem is, he was hurt quite a bit towards the end, middle and end of his career. And his production tailed off. He has a couple bad seasons where he only had 200-something yards receiving, 300 yards receiving. But either way, he was always the consummate team player. He was always the guy that the other Giants could look to. Like I said, he never said a lot. One of those things, you don't say a lot, but you just let your performance dictate who you are. And Shockey was the opposite. He was flamboyant. But you think about it, his worst season, he only had 534 yards, and that was in only 9 games. I mean, it's tough. But I was thinking about it again, and if you had to have one player make the big catch at the right time and be in the right spot and lead your team, and if you're going off just statistically, because like I said, the statistics aren't too different. Shockey in 6 years had 317 catches for 4,228 yards and 27 touchdowns. And like I said, Bavaro had, it's in a bizarro world. Bavaro had 266 catches and 3,722 yards. He had a better yards per catch. And like Shockey had more touchdowns. Both phenomenal blockers. You know what? This is the one time that I am stuck in a quandary. It's a quagmire. And I'm not talking about, it's a different type of quagmire. I am going to have to say that this is going to be ranked as tight end 1A and tight end 1B. Yes, I'm calling this matchup a draw. I am saying that both of them, for different reasons, rank themselves in the top 1 and best tight ends in all-time Giants history. I am saying the Giants have 2 of the best tight ends, 2 players that are not only going to compete for the best tight end position, but they are the best tight end position. And a lot of people are going to say, well, you know what, you're chickening down on this one. No, I'm not. If you take a look at it statistically, analytically, and you just follow it, that's the breakdown that I have. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could like, if you could subscribe, if you could ring the bell, I think you know what it is. That would be awesome.